Welcome, Motenta people. Bela Lugosi is talented, yet prone to misfortune. The actor who gave perhaps the most iconic Dracula performances had his life led by blunders, which somehow he continued to make repeatedly. He was rash, and this cost him, and ended up sucking the life out of him. Why Bela Lugosi kept naked pictures of Clara Bow. Make sure to watch the video until the end, and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Motentas channel. Hollywood-focused media houses have a habit of sensationalizing the lives of Hollywood stars. Sometimes they get help from the stars themselves, especially those who have a penchant for exaggeration. These media houses also get assisted by stars who incline scandals. So, either willing or unwilling, Hollywood stars contribute to the gossip machines in Hollywood. But it does create a mess with many untruths mixing with truths. And there is one major untruth running rampant in Hollywood. The relationship between Bela Lugosi and Clara Bow on the one hand, and Bela Lugosi and Beatrice Weeks' marriage. What the media parroted was Clara and Lugosi had the steamiest affair, and it was this affair that led to the end of Bela's 4-day marriage to Weeks. However, new information suggests otherwise. Allegedly, Clara Bow and Bela didn't have an affair, nor did Bela's marriage to Weeks last 4 days. It lasted longer. They spent 3 months together, and they had known each other for a year before their marriage, so it wasn't a hasty thing as media houses reported. But we do understand where the misconception arose from. All 3 parties involved had a reputation that made salacious details about them seem readily plausible. Lugosi was a chronic womanizer who loved sex and considered it the most important thing in the world. Moreover, there was that nude portrait of Bow that Lugosi hung in the bedroom of all the houses he lived in, despite his marriage to other women. Bow was a naughty woman who had engaged in some nasty affairs, which included being with married men. Also, there was that fight between Clara and her friend-turned-secretary, Daisy DeVoe. Allegedly, Daisy was stealing from Bow, which made the actress sue Daisy. However, to deflect attention from her alleged misdeed, DeVoe released some tantalizing secrets about Bow, listing men she had been with. Lugosi was part of the men on the list. Then there's Beatrice Weeks herself, the woman who left her husband in just 57 days of marriage. So there's a precedence of being in a short marriage. So before ever meeting Beatrice or marrying her, Lugosi had met Clara during one of the runs of the iconic Broadway performance of Dracula. Clara had heard about the foreign actor who was so brilliant that he owned his character, and she was eager to meet him. On a whim, she got tickets to one of Lugosi's performances and didn't even dress properly to watch the show. Not one for adhering to societal standards decency. Clara threw on a fur coat over a swimsuit and dashed out to the theater. She was enraptured by the brilliant Lugosi's performance, and after the show, she went backstage to meet him. Lugosi was delighted about meeting a renowned actress, and allegedly, he may have lied to keep her attention. You see, one of Bow's reasons for wanting to watch and meet Lugosi was a rumor she heard that Lugosi wasn't proficient in the English language. This meant he had to memorize his lines phonetically. Lugosi, with his annex, admitted to this, and according to Bow's friend said, he memorized each word from a cue, and if by mistake another actor should ever give him a wrong line, he would be lost for the rest of the night. Well, this might have been true when Bela first came to America, but he had given several interviews which showed he wasn't as bad at the language as people thought. One cannot easily forget this legendary quip when a reporter asked about marital status. "Oh, surely, madame. And open for business, you think, yes?" The sexy actress invited Bela to her house. Let's stop you right there. You probably think they went to Bow's room and had a night-long romp that would make Aphrodite proud. Certainly, Bela himself thought so, and even bragged that Bow clawed at his back. But allegedly, that wasn't what happened. Allegedly, when the star man arrived, he met a full house with Clara's friends, and he had to be put in a room different from where Clara slept. This new information went further to say that if Clara had a relationship with Lugosi, she would have helped him get better roles in Hollywood. Clara had a habit of doing that for the actors she had relationships with. Lugosi wouldn't have been an exception. so it would seem like the two of them were just friends and nothing more. Lugosi met Beatrice Weeks months after he met Clara, and he was a ray of sunshine in her otherwise gloomy life. She had lost her father, her second husband, and her health. She had been diagnosed with a pulmonary disease, which required her to make lifestyle changes. The disease loomed over her for the rest of her short life. Weeks didn't make the changes she had to make, but for 5 months she disappeared from the public, only to reappear in the presence of the sexuality-brimming Lugosi. Weeks wasn't an actress, but she was a wealthy socialite with a sizable inheritance. Her dad was a Harvard Law alum with expertise in naval law, and he eventually became the director of the Bureau of Law of the United States Shipping Board. Weeks was no stranger to failed marriages before meeting Lugosi, seeing as she was twice married herself. Her first marriage ended after 57 days when her husband said, "Now we are married, and the main point is that you are legally mine." Weeks lived in a lifestyle of freedom and partying. Not even marriage would make her give that up. Her second marriage lasted 5 years before death took her man away. When she met Lugosi, she was revitalized. Contrary to the brief meeting and marriage which Lugosi concocted, the pair became friends during one of Lugosi's tours, and they remained so for a year, constantly communicating with each other. Lugosi himself revealed this when they got married. The two reconnected when one of Bella's many Dracula runs brought him to San Francisco. It was then they decided to marry, saying they would only truly be happy until they married each other. It didn't matter that Lugosi was far older than his bride. Lugosi had a habit of dating not only younger women and wealthy women, but women who bore some similarities to his first wife, Ilona. Bella and Weeks gave a 3-day notice of their marriage, and the ceremony itself was brief, with Dracula returning to work on the afternoon of their wedding. Although to those who knew Lugosi might have guessed the marriage was doomed. For Weeks and Lugosi, the third time was not the charm. The actor was a traditional man who believed it was for a woman to remain at home and the man to provide for her. It was submission or nothing else. This wasn't the kind of woman Beatrice was. After marrying her dream man, she discovered their marriage wouldn't be a dream. Being with him meant she would sacrifice her freedom. She wouldn't and didn't so. 3 months after marriage, she parted ways with Dracula. Now, how did Clara come in? Around the time of their divorce, there was no talk of Clara. Clara only became tied to Lugosi's marriage a few years after it crashed. DeVoe and Lugosi himself caused this. Apart from his boastful talks about Clara leaving scars behind his back and DeVoe's shocking reveal, there was a statement credited to the Dracula actor. A newspaper outlet revealed that Bela Lugosi told them that he and Clara were engaged to be married, and they only spent time apart to see if their relationship was strong. That he would marry Bo after he divorced Weeks. Honestly, it's an absurd thing. Everyone knows Bo wasn't a marrying person. She was a party animal who didn't have the mind to settle down. Then this brings us to the portrait. What was Bela thinking? Probably he wasn't. He was acting the way Adele Rogers St. John described the men who fell in love with Clara Bow. Lugosi was acting like a madman. Only a madman would have the naked portrait of another woman in the room he shared with the women he married. Now, people believe that Bela begged Clara to pose nude for him, so that he could have her painted and view her portrait at his pleasure. It was easier for people to believe because Bo wasn't a stranger to nude snoots. It doesn't look like Clara knew about the picture, as the actor commissioned his friend, Geza Kendi, to paint her picture. It wasn't difficult for them to get a couple of nude shoots that the actress had done to base their portrait on. The relationship between Clara and Lugosi is hazy, but it didn't seem like anything sexual was involved. Clara didn't have that kind of ability to be discreet, but maybe Lugosi wanted more, and this made him see things differently. Bela Lugosi had a habit of glamorizing his past. He once told journalists that he was a famed actor in his native Hungary. Lugosi also said he left a woman and sons back in his homeland before he made his way to America. His delusions of grandeur were also fueled by Universal. When Universal picked Lugosi as its star for the movie adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula, they deployed their heavy studio publicity machinery and scrubbed his history. They pumped so much fiction about Lugosi into the media, describing him as a real-life count. What the actor didn't count on was that the publicity was a double-edged sword. While people knew him, they also saw him in a specific light. They saw Lugosi as Dracula and Dracula as Lugosi. The man became locked in the worst form of typecasting. Talking about the situation, Lugosi expressed his regrets, saying, "Never has a role so influenced and dominated an actor's life as has the role of Dracula. It has at times infused me with prosperity, and at other times has drained me of everything. It's a living, but it's also a curse. It's Dracula's curse." It all began in 1882, hundreds of kilometers from Transylvania, in the town of Lugosi, where the man we know as Bela Lugosi was born as Bela Ferenc Dejo Blasco. He was born to a middle-class family with his father being a baker before he started a small savings bank in Lugosi. The actor's dad was sure of his purpose, but his son floundered. Bela didn't have the ambition of having a business. As a child, when he was in school, he said he would become a highway bandit. But with the kind of hand that life dealt him, he cast aside his childish aspirations and had to become a man. By the age of 12, when his father died, Bela dropped out of school, taking up menial labors to survive instead. It's unclear how the actor began his acting. Some sources say it was through his sister, who convinced her husband to fix her brother in a theater group. Through his sister or not, Bela began his career as a theater performer in Hungary. Although he didn't achieve his success early, and according to some sources, he wasn't even successful at all and only had bit parts. Other sources say while the man struggled with multiple rejections and sacking due to incompetent acting, he did succeed in gaining enough recognition with his breakout role in Romeo and Juliet. It was on the back of this breakout role that he got an invitation to the National Theatre of Budapest. However, his theater career got halted because of World War I. Bela chose to serve due to his patriotism and not because he was drafted. As a performer, he had a professional exemption, but he chose to enlist. He fought Russians as a lieutenant in the 43rd Royal Hungarian Infantry, but despite their efforts, the Hungarian army fell to the Russians. Lugosi was moved to ski patrol and then sent off to another battle where he got seriously hurt. His injury would come back later to haunt him. Discharged from the army, the actor returned home and married afterward, but he soon had to flee his home. Lugosi got in trouble with the government, and he had to move with his wife Ilona, whose family was later convinced to return home as the conditions of fleeing were not palatable for her. It would be the end of his first marriage, and one of the most vicious heartbreaks he would suffer. According to the wives he married afterward, Bela never got over Ilona. Allegedly, his subsequent wives bore some similarities to Ilona. The actor made his way to Germany, making some silent films before eventually traveling to America on a merchant ship. The odds were stacked against him in America, as he wasn't young. He was approaching middle age, and in America, the entertainment industry had a fixation on youthfulness. Lugosi wasn't fazed. He auditioned for theater productions, despite not being able to speak English. He was lucky to get roles that required him to speak Hungarian, but he knew he needed to learn the language to become successful. Well, luck soon shined on him. A small Broadway theater wanted to make a stage production of Bram Stoker's Dracula. However, it struggled to get actors for the part of the lead. Actors didn't want to be a part of the show, and they felt it didn't befit their status. Sucking blood and heavy makeup, the role looked wrong, but Lugosi, he grabbed the opportunity by the jugular. The man bamboozled the producers, saying he was from Transylvania, the birth town of the fictional character. He accepted the conditions of the role required, and he also added his. He would act the role in his vision. The producers hurriedly agreed. They had finally found their lead and weren't about to let him go. The show was a hit and catapulted the star to fame. At this point, he had married and divorced his second wife, also named Ilona. Lugosi wanted the rich, wealthy woman to abandon her acting career and focus on taking care of him. She wasn't ready for such a sacrifice, especially not for a man who had a habit of cheating on her. Bela would marry his third wife, Beatrice Weeks, and that was an epic failure too. but at last he still had Dracula. However, he didn't have much luck acting on the silver screen. His 6'1" height didn't do him any favors, especially as he dwarfed his female counterparts. This limitation didn't stop him from auditioning for Universal's film version of Dracula. Universal rejected him and favored another known silver screen actor, but their choice had cancer, and he died. Reluctantly, they gave Lugosi the role, and in trying to get the role, Lugosi undercharged, earning only $3,500 for the hit film. Lugosi became an instant sensation, despite him being older than the popular youthful leading men. Women desired him, and at some point, he was more popular than Clark Gable. Universal, still reeling from the financial success of Dracula, drafted Lugosi to act in Frankenstein, but Lugosi arrogantly felt the film was beneath him, and it went to actor Boris Karloff. This sparked an intense rivalry between the two men, a rivalry that haunted Lugosi even at the point of death. Boris always got the better deal when he and Lugosi starred together. He also drew more praise than Lugosi, as his performances were one step above Lugosi's. As if that wasn't enough, Boris's career evolved, and he escaped the typecast of playing monster creatures. He also rubbed it in Dracula's face, calling Lugosi an untalented actor. Boris continued to grow, and Bela became desperate. Lugosi lived a lavish life, which made him tear through his money like a shredder cuts through paper. Desperation made him feature in terrible films, and despite this, Bela couldn't afford the bills of his son when he was born by his fourth wife. His failures and dwindling career deepened the man's addiction to methadone, which was a habit he got into when he went to England. He weighed a shocking 125 pounds because the man didn't eat and only fueled his addiction. Also, the return of his pains from his wounds he got in the war led him to a morphine addiction. With his addiction getting worse, his fourth wife left him, and he checked himself into a psychopathic hospital. When Lugosi came public with his addiction, Frank Sinatra ensured the man didn't have to worry about his hospital bills, as Frank handled it. Frank hadn't even met the man, but he still ensured the man got the care he needed. Bela still got married to his fifth and final wife, who was a superfan, right in the hospital. Feeling he had a new lease on life, Bela felt he was due for a comeback, but this didn't materialize, and he became an alcoholic. His health failed, and after falling into a nap, he never woke up. Lugosi didn't leave much of an inheritance for his wife and son. The $1,000 he had left, they split between themselves, and tried to get more by suing Universal. Their suit failed, and apart from the Hollywood Star Walk of Fame, Bela didn't leave much behind. There wasn't just one famously scandalous Hungarian in Hollywood. Zsa Zsa Gabor slept with her stepson? Let's find out the story from this video.